Welcome back to my channel Celebuzz. Please share and subscribe and press the bell icon for new updates. Companionship or fatal deception? Raise after that. An old acquaintance, Mike Wolfe the Globe, fell for American Picker's deception, wearing a warm grin. Nevertheless, concealed from view behind charisma was a terrifying offense. The death regarding Fritz, the acquaintance who journeyed with him in pursuit of the American dream, and diabolical scheme involving a single bottle, and Wolfe's finally spoken in court. The end of an era. Who you are. Oh, was it a final admission or what? Act. The things that motivate someone to harm a goal in and of itself? When was the last time who you look up to could turn out to be betrayer number one? Tune in right now to discover the reality and inquire of oneself. If in Fritz's shoes, would you be able to forgive Wolfe? Post a comment and hit that like button. Make sure you don't miss any part by subscribing. Shocking twist. As a little Iowa town's lights fade at dusk in the town, Frank's passing Fritz, who played a pivotal role in the American Pickers, were a black eye for the adoration of a massive fan base. Hello, Frank, famous for his kind demeanor and brilliant gazes upon when relating tales of antiquities, was thought to have departed from problems caused by a stroke associated with battles with vascular illness over the years, and aortic valve stenosis. Loved ones, including Mike Wolfe, his devoted companion, began engaging in social. People in the media are sad. During a heartfelt tribute video that Mike uploaded, Frank was involved with a sibling. We co-authored the greatest sections of American Pickers. Mourned, extending thousands of sympathies, thinking this is an act of nature gone wrong, a tragic conclusion for a cherished individual. Laughter between Frank and Mike in my mind, through sandstone, treasure hunts, engaging, arguing over costs, and kicking back with friends. I felt so alive while sitting by the fire, the depth of his sorrow, incredibly painful. However, the revelation flipped everything on its head. Throughout an ordinary examination of Frank's at the residence, law enforcement discovered a pill container without any contents, concealed in a recess of the kitchen. The peculiar aspect, the imprints of fingerprints not rightfully Frank's. They were owned by Mike Wolfe as the guy. In the beginning, researchers reasoned that it posed no threat. Mike, in the end, made frequent visits to Frank, carrying little presents, or simply dropping by to reflect. However, doubts began to form after DNA testing. The prints were really Mike's. Furthermore, no label on the bottle. An in-depth examination was mandated, and the outcomes departed from shocked the investigation group. Fritz died suddenly and unexpectedly, within his own being dose of fentanyl that was fatal, a strong opioid well beyond the recommended dosage, and not present in any way on his prescriptions. There was purpose behind this. The murder was premeditated. The reality struck, deeply, affecting watchers of American Pickers. Wolfe, Mike, the guy who kept Frank's hand through on each side street, who believed in the possibility of keeping the past alive, becomes the priority of a tornado of mistrust. The FBI initially requested to provide assistance, promptly changed directions, and put Mike under thorough examination. Pics of him, his face interred in his palms at the shrine dedicated to Frank, shaking with fear as he remembered their final snicker, now assumed a new, gloomier lens. Was it genuine sorrow or a brilliant how well? A heartfelt recollection of the friendship between them is now contaminated by the terrifying truth. Someone contacted Frank, his sibling, could have been the individual who cut short his life. Due to the fact that American Pickers dim, the depths of Mike Wolfe's hidden demons unveil on top of the water. Together, they create a horrifying image. After Frank passes away became a homicide, according to the FBI, broadened the scope of their study. Furthermore, what they found out even left the most experienced agents trembled. Michael's website records of his online searches notebook computer was a safe deposit box of shame. In the middle of the night, when everything believed he had retired from antique stocks, Mike was clandestinely entering word toxins that do not leave any evidence behind. What the fentanyl's lethal. Furthermore, the art of passing off acute into a dead body. These were not happenstance queries. Their painting was icy and detailed strategy, as though Mike were penning they deal crime. What a revelation. The iceberg's tip. What really caused goosebumps: investigators were sent shivering by Mike's secret diary discovered in a concealed cabinet in his workplace. The tightly pages densely packed, first stocked with reflections on journeys accompanied by Frank, during time, transformed into a damning accusation of long-standing animosity. As a friend, Frank was great in the past, but today, he's like a dark cloud that weighs me down. In just one paragraph, Mike detailed his penmanship that appears to be influenced by fury, level, He thinks he's deserving of the focus. However, American Pickers belongs to me. From scratch I constructed it. I'm only an obstruction, a sick man in my path. Even more, what came next was chilling. Maybe everything would be okay if he weren't there, less difficult. A stroke, or accident, nobody would suspect. It wasn't like they were raw mental state. In essence, they served as a secret plan to remove the legacy of the man who'd been his best friend for a while. Monitors installed in Frank's peaceful Iowa, nearby area, even further, solidified the case. The evening prior to Frank's discovered an unresponsive automobile, spotted Mike's pristine white vehicle outside of Frank's house around 2 in the afternoon first thing. Mike, who asserted that he solely visited the following morning to assess no one, even Frank knew why he was there at that hour, seemed strange. The course video captured his escape from the vehicle, cradling a little bag, his gaze flitting uneasily, as if frightened of being noticed. Regarding the most damning piece of proof, however, razor sharp, was the finding of concealed pharmaceutical containers concealed beneath a bookcase inside Mike's house. The liquid was validated through chemical testing. Inside were found fentanyl, the powerful substance that ultimately proved fatal for Frank. These containers, secreted away, were not only factual evidence but an unspoken admission with Mike. These discoveries altered Mike, who had become a cherished TV star, into the lead suspect in an investigation by the FBI. Devotees who respected the camaraderie he shared with Frank were now in a state of disarray. In what ways may someone who had dreamed together with does Frank hold on to such lethal grudges? The personal reflections, online queries, they all painted a night scene on the van image of an alternate Mike Wolfe, a power-hungry manipulator, prepared in order to maintain the focus. When the lights went out on American Pickers, the shadowy forces behind rationale for Mike Wolfe's assassination of his master guy named Frank Fritz started to fall apart, exposing a complex network of avarice, envy, and inescapable truths. Justices, charged with icy precision in court, that Mike did not act as a consequence of a brief slip-up, but the last stage of a deliberate strategy to become the undisputed ruler of his empire when he and Frank and his team erected it. An American publication picker, formerly a sign of love and camaraderie, had transformed into arena where Mike's ravenous ambition. However, the thing that really triggered the startled quietness filled the courtroom as the disclosure of the will of Frank. He was involved in $6.5 million bequest, which comprises his excellent antique assemblage and the ownership of ideas and creations to the show. Mike Wolfe was left in charge. A startling, confusing choice, particularly weighing the pros and disadvantages of their broken bond as Frank was dying. The father of Frank, William Fritz, with his voice up in court, fearful and enraged. No way my kid could ever carry it out. Mike had changed, and he knew it. Skepticism quickly gained momentum. Is the will manipulated, or was Frank a victim of deceit? If not while I'm alive, further analysis made a disturbing reality even more apparent. This wasn't Mike's first move. Whispers of a hidden bond between Mike and each other, one of the most important members of the American Pickers squad, started to whirl in the hushed tones of the set. Being sworn in as a crew member, uncovered the fact that Mike and Danielle were long-term, committed relationship and even had an unborn kid as a couple. Little one, the care of a little child, who was 3 years old, hidden away in a neighboring town, her privacy safeguarded by covert monetary contracts. Holders of the prosecution maintained that the nature of their relationship only a controversy. It was the driving force, along with, as Frank's health deteriorated, they spotted a golden chance to remove him from the picture and take over with his American Picker empire and wealth came fame. A lot of the shows were managed by Danielle. Commercial transactions allegedly had authorized Mike to access confidential records, such as the will of Frank, simplifying the process of making changes. How Mike acted in the short subsequent to Frank's demise rocked the case against the defendant. Just 36 hours following Frank's official after death, Mike got in touch with his lawyer, insisting on paying to acquire the privileges to the reputation of Frank going forward projects. Moreover, he swiftly scoured the private archive of Frank, housing priceless artifacts, a great deal of which made no appearance on the program. These were not befitting a bereaved person, ally, but rather the target of a predator intent one, and everyone. As the prosecution noted, thanks to Danielle's assistance, Mike had a network of front businesses to relocate these relics, a deliberate attempt to obfuscate where they came from, and made sure they stayed controlled by him. However, the most terrifying particulars for admirers was Mike's icy demeanor way to the family of Frank. He stated in the email, Frank had everything. Had to have. It is my time now. Mike's situation envy was further revealed by way of the statements made by his coworkers. Regardless of while he was sick, Frank had managed to keep intense love for vintage items, and had also intended to debut his own television series. The last straw appeared to have been that. Anxiety set in for Mike, refusing to acknowledge what he perceived as Frank's responsibility might reassume the limelight. Having Danielle as his partner, Mike's plan removed Frank wasn't the only concern. The experience was to making sure nobody could ever cast doubt on the heritage he thought was solely as unanswered was a terrifying question in the courtroom. Could Mike's affection for his Danielle, the one who starts the murder, was just a stepping stone on the way to get rid of Frank for good? The Iowa courtroom, which was formerly the setting for The Just, now quivered beneath the anim-wild fury of Mike Wolfe, ex-celebrity who starred in American Pickers. An 8-week examination, a nerve-wracking voyage revealing the shocking reality of Frank Fritz's murder, concluding with incontestable proof. A scathing case was brought out by the prosecution. It all started with Mike's search for poison past and his hateful journal entries to digital fingerprints on vials of fentanyl and surveillance film, revealing his vehicle exterior of Frank's residence on the tragic at night. Evidence presented by the film crew workers, particularly a nervous employee who described how Mike would take up all the place, the emphasis on his pathological jealousy. Experts in the medical field who suffer from chronic accuracy verified the fentanyl dosage had no chance of being in Frank's body. The experience was a cold-blooded murder. My name is Danielle Colby. Despite being believed to have been involved, since her connection with Mike is hazy, avoiding whispers about an unborn child accusations, since there is no concrete proof. However, with a critical eye and adamanding FBI monitoring, order followed she should be warned that the truth may not be completely revealed quite yet. With regard to the sentencing day, and the weight of the courtroom was on calmness, as if a tempest were brewing in the sky. When Mike Wolfe was found guilty by the judge, and handed down a sentence of first-degree murder, condemned to an eternity behind bars, everyone in the room went silent. The stillness, however, was broken by the ferocious yell of Mike. "You, I don't comprehend," he said, his furrows wide. His eyes were red, and his body quivered like an animatrix trapped. While furious, he jumped up and over the defendant's desk, dispersing paperwork and toppling a container for water, dispatching justices frantic. Angry with one cop, he frantic, grasping fingernails as if attempting to destroy anything that stood in his way. "Hello," Frank lied to me. He had intentions of each and every one. The sound of Mike's scream pierced the air, to shatter, a combination of insanity and suffering. In his hysteria, he seized a cane for show, an artifact acquired by an American collector assemblage, and wielded it with devastating force, getting a guard's shoulder bruised. The mayhem ensued in the courtroom as a result of sounds of panic and footfall as many as 3 policemen dragged him to the surface. Sitting in the chair is Danielle Colby. The eyewitness stood up, dipped her head, arms gripped tightly as if suppressing sobs. She was not found guilty, but suspicion clung to her as if she were a ghost. Holders of the prosecution, she found out the FBI was keeping tabs on her. Every behavior, including financial dealings, contacts, in an effort to find out more information regarding her position within secret plot. Several onlookers murmured Danielle had more knowledge than she disclosed. Her lack of speech, nevertheless, together with the chilly gaze she cast as she departed from the courtroom, the enigma was further complicated. In the meantime, Mike, now bound and hauled out of court, persisted in "I did everything just for the show, you know." He had no right to become so angry. It was only a flash of madness. I was in climax of a man whose greed has taken over his life and animosity. Entering the courtroom crashed down, the mental picture of Mike, who was once emblem of love and camaraderie, waste transformed to a specter driven by animosity, abandoning bereaved fans and members of Frank's family, will remain evergreen. The decision wasn't. Nonetheless, inquiries regarding the hidden function of Danielle and the mystery, persistently shrouded in secrecy, casting a shadow over American Pickers' heritage. Behind Mike, the jail doors shut. In spite of the wolf, the tempest engulfing, according to American Picker, the murder case was from all around. Once a beloved show emblem of love and unity, sunk into a catastrophe of unparalleled proportions. With the public incensed, History Channel removed all episodes starring immediately Mike, as if he were invisible, working to remove a stain. Backers from a variety from well-known companies to mom-and-pop stores left the show during mass in danger of collapsing at any moment. Hello, Frank. The Fritz family, headed by Fritz's dad, William wasn't merely grieving. Their position was intent in pursuing justice. They submitted an action taken by Heritage Network, denouncing the network's alleged disregard for widening divide between Frank and Mike and facilitating the catastrophe. The matter requiring cost millions of dollars and became a nationwide prominence, and seemed large in the shadows regarding the heritage of American pickers. At the same time, the legacy of Frank Fritz bears on shining brightly in the violent downpour. His legacy lives on through his deeply devoted to the world of antiques, his captivating narratives, the supportive, charming smile that captivated audiences worldwide. Supporters have set up memorial accounts and managed the display of antiques in his dignity, maintaining Frank's soul. In strikingly different, Mike Wolfe's moniker is the stain of his wrongdoing. At least once, an emblem of television heroism in a state of desolation brought on by his former legion of devoted followers. People are using the hashtag all over social media. Fairness for everybody. Honesty, with hundreds lamenting the situation. We gave him their trust, and he ruined it. Each and every one. The crew of the American Picker has melted away in grief. Even if some of them stubbornly insist that Mike is not guilty, but most people have decided to remain silent or departed from the field of entertainment in their entirety. Even if Danielle was not found guilty, still has to deal with the aftermath of interrogation by the Federal Bureau of Investigations, FBI, seeing her actions in real time. The enthusiast profound schisms persist. Within the group, a number of the remembrance of Mike with unwavering conviction. Some people feel duped, as if the lovely camaraderie portrayed on television, utterly deceitful. United States-based, once representing the epitome of American aspiration, is now merely the past, plagued by the specter of Mike Wolfe's criminal offense. Even if the plot is concluded, nevertheless, unanswered issues concerning the veracity persist, departing with a multifaceted impression on the two males who formerly held everyone's attention. It wasn't the end of the Mike Wolfe case when the thud of a jail door closing in his wake. Difficult lessons were left behind, etched into the memories of admirers and individuals who enjoyed American Pickers in the past. Their repercussions for Mike, a lifetime behind bars with no chance of release, were a reasonable charge for an icy act of criminality, the indisputable confirmation using his fingerprints on the hate-filled fentanyl bottle, and all diary entry to the plans to control. The bequest that Frank Fritz left behind revealed someone known as Mike Wolfe, who lied to the confidence of his best friend and an audience of millions. His deeds failed to only break up a friendship. They ended up ruining the American ideal American Pickers were originally a symbol of in the wake of an everlasting mark. This instance shows us that being famous may conceal horrifying casts a shadow. Mike, accompanied by his amiable outward and fictitious ardor, concealed his envy and avarice, prompting that what you see on TV is not necessarily reality. Furthermore, it stresses the need of authentic friendship. Even while sick, Frank had a heart full of love, while Mike made the decision to eliminate the individual who once dreamed of sharing it. The greatest topic is fairness. It makes no difference. Deftly a crime is masked. The reality eventually makes a comeback, exactly like the FBI was able to decipher Mike's deliberate strategy. Above and beyond that, the instance serves as a cautionary tale regarding their sorts of egotism and avarice. Mike was deprived of his liberty and his lasting impact, emerging as an emblem of turning traitor. The legacy that Frank leaves behind, his adoration of vintage pieces, his kind demeanor for the benefit of those who value what's really important. That lawsuit might be over. However, this does leave us all with a question. Is greed going to overshadow the human race? Please express your views regarding important takeaways from this narrative, and let's explore a more profound,